Well, I'm here to talk about North Stawell Minerals. But before we do that, we've got to go through the usual disclaimers, given that we're an ASX listed company. So I'll just give you a second to have a look at the disclaimer, and then we'll move on to the presentation. Stawell, North Stawell Minerals. The Stawell Goldfield, located in central Victoria, is the fourth largest historic goldfield in Victoria. North Stawell is searching for repeats of the Stawell gold mine type structure, which is located at the township of Stawell. The township's actually built around a gold mine. North Stawell Minerals is an ASX listed company. NSM is its ASX code. It's currently trading around 30 cents with a market capitalisation of around about $36 million. Just on a little bit of history on the Stawell region. Gold was discovered in Stawell back in 1853, and historic mining in the area ceased in the 1920s, more or less at the end of the war. Western Mining, the Australian Icon company, re-established operations at Stawell in 1982. With the downturn in the gold price after that, there's been a sequence of multiple owners, but historic production out of that gold field was just under 5 million ounces. Stawell was the fourth largest gold field in Victoria. Back in 2018, the gold mine at Stawell was reopened by a private equity group headed by Arate Capital. Stawell was the flagship deposit. The Stawell is the flagship gold deposit in the Stawell zone. Until the dramatic rise of Fosterville, Stawell was the highest producing modern gold mine in Victoria. Stawell itself, or North Stawell Minerals, has very much a single focus. We are looking at exploring the ground just to the north of Stawell in the Stawell corridor. This area is underexplored, and the reason is largely because as you travel further north from Stawell, the area goes under a sedimentary Murray Basin cover. So it's been harder for the old-time prospectors to actually find gold where it hasn't been outcropping. In order to do this, Stawell's put together a fairly strong board of directors and management team. Firstly, our chairman is Mr. Jerry Ellis, 30 years experience with BHP, 10 years as a director of ANZ Bank, director of numerous other mining companies, former director, I should say, of numerous other mining companies, and exceptionally experienced in the corporate world. One of our non-executive directors, Graham Brown, 40 years experience in mining and former head of geosciences and exploration for Anglo America. Campbell Olson, Campbell, a engineer, over 20 years experience in private equity and mining operations. Campbell is the CEO and director of Arate Capital Partners. Arate Capital is a private equity group that purchased the Stawell gold mine, and Arate is Arate and that private equity group is a 66% shareholder in North Stawell Minerals, the rest of it being public. We also have Alistair Wardell, 25 years experience, another geologist, and founder and former CEO of Goldquest Mining Corporation in Canada. I have myself, 30 years experience in investment banking and mining. Mr. Kevin Lamb, 30 years experience in investment banking and private equity. Kevin's our Chief Financial Officer and was a senior investment banker at Citibank and was a co-founder of the Singapore government-sponsored venture capital fund. Importantly, we also have Mr. Bill Reid. Mr. Bill Reid is our head of geology or head of exploration. Bill has 25 years plus experience in Australia, Canada and Africa and is a very, very competent geologist. And Lee Tamplin is our company secretary. The Stawell zone itself is as I said, located in central Western Victoria. It runs all the way up to the Murray and continues on into New South Wales and all the way down to the southern coast. Stawell, you can see, is located more or less centrally in the middle, and it's particularly the western margin of the Stawell corridor that we're interested in. So that's the area on this slide that's highlighted in blue. The darker blue highlights just ahead of the Stawell mine is the North Stawell tenement package. So we run just on the western side of the mine and then all the way up a further 60k to the north. Historically, the region's produced about 6 million ounces of production, and it's mineralised from the same gold events that emplaced gold throughout the Victorian goldfields, including Bendigo, Fosterville and Ballarat. The trick with this area, though, is it's 85% under that Murray Basin sedimentary cover, which I mentioned. So it makes exploration a little more difficult, but it also provides us with the opportunity because the area has been underexplored as a consequence. Interestingly also, the Victorian government, through one of their initiatives called Gold Undercover, estimates that there remains 32 million ounces of undiscovered gold in this region. So our job is to try and assist them in finding it. Just to demonstrate the effect of the cover, if we have a look at this slide here, you'll see where the Stawell mine is. In the middle there on the left-hand side, the big red blob. Those other red blobs are actual old historic mines, some of them minor workings just at the moment. And you can actually see that blue shaded area as it starts to the north is actually where the cover commences. So all of the historic workings are outcropping and we're able to be easily found. And as we travel further to the north, the cover or the sedimentary cover comes across the prospects and leaves the area largely underexplored and underdeveloped. However, it's exactly the same geology all the way through. It's just been covered up by a sedimentary layer. So our job is to sort of uncover or see through that layer. The cover varies between 0 and 60 metres thick. It gets deeper the further to the north we go. So up around Ashens, the cover's approximately 60 metres deep, and down just north of Stawell, it's quite shallow. So if we're moving on to the next slide. The tenement package is as it is there. They're outlined in the orangey red colour just to the north of the Stawell gold mine. You can see where the tenement packages comes down and goes just to the south of the Stawell mine on the western side and runs basically north-northwest up along the corridor. The important thing there is it's contiguous. It's along 60 kilometres of strike, and we have about 504 contiguous square kilometres of exploration land. Just moving on to the next slide. The Stawell mine itself is the flagship mine in the area. The field, as I said, produced just under 5 million ounces, of which I think it's now about 2.5 million ounces have come from underground mining in that Stawell mine. You can see on the diagram there, just on the top right, the orange and red areas are where the ore body is laid down on the Magdala dome, which is the basalt dome, which actually the gold coats, if you like. It's orogenic gold, and it gets caught in the folds and traps along the basalt dome when it was originally laid down. You'll see there's little blue lines in the top right-hand corner, etc. That is actually the underground workings of the mine as it currently stands. So you can see, if you look, there's a couple of areas across the top there and to the right. So as you can see, a large amount of the ore remains in place and intact, has not been mined. Those little blue lines represent about 275 kilometres of tunnels underneath the township of Stawell. So it's a big mine, a big structure, and the guys tell me there that they expect to be mining there for a long, long time yet to come. As we move on, the way that we've actually gone about trying to see through that Murray Basin cover is we've done a lot of geophysical and geochemical work. We've flown airborne gravity over 85%, so the area to the north of Stawell, and we've had it interpreted by various we've had it interpreted by ourselves initially. So our geological team, we've shared it with the guys at Stawell because obviously they're experienced in the area. So their geological teams had a look at it, and we've used 3 independent consulting firms. And in doing this, what we've actually done is be able to put together a fairly detailed picture of what lies beneath that cover. It's taken a lot of work, but what we've done is we've used all of this historical data sets. We've done all of the modern, used all of the modern geophysics and geochemistry work. We've put it all together. We've used all of the historic workings and whole data and the data that we've actually gained from both Stawell and ourselves in the drilling programs. And we've put it all together. And in doing so, we've identified quite a number of targets where we believe that there is potential for gold. As I said, the mineralisation up and down the corridor is relatively the same, except it's covered by that cover. So our dark art, if you like, is to look through that cover and find where those structures are, where the sweet spots are in the deposit, with using all of the various variables. So we continue to do that and work on that and develop our models accordingly. In doing so, we've developed quite a number of targets, and as I said, you can see on this slide here, just some of the gold hits which actually confirm the mineralisation up and down the corridor. We've used largely air core just to follow these through, so that's relatively shallow drilling, just down over 100 metres or so, just testing the geochemistry and looking for the indicator metals as well as the gold bearing, as well as gold itself, if you like, in the structures. We've identified probably 20 major structures in the corridor which have the potential to host a Stawell type deposit, plus a couple of low areas, if you like, which could well be porphyry intrusive type structures. So at the Stawell mine, there is obviously the basalt dome, which is primarily what we're looking for. 2 k's away, there is a thing called Wonga, and that particular mine was actually a porphyry intrusion. So both sorts are up and down this corridor, and we continue to explore for those. In order to do that, we've done a lot of work across. Our drilling program is fairly simple after we do all of the desktop work, if you like. We come through with after the desktop work's done and we've identified the zones, we come and test it with an RC, with an air core rig, I beg your pardon. We've done now just over 200 holes, just north of 10,000 metres, but we only have assays returned for 2 of the 6 target areas so far. We've got a larger rig arriving at the end of the month, probably next week, and that rig, that RC rig, will be doing follow-up drilling where we've already got targets well and truly defined. If we just look to the southern area, so the area immediately around the Stawell gold mine and the area that's not under cover, this is quite important to us for a number of reasons. For one, this is where all the historic mining has occurred, and if we actually have a look, you'll see there that there's 97,800 ounces at 28 grams a tonne mined. We've got other hits there where there's 212,000 ounces mined at 17.3 grams a tonne, so on and so forth. So it's quite a gold rich area to the south there. What's important about that from our perspective is it gives us an advantage of being able to actually weatherproof our tenements. Our tenements are largely through that corridor to the north. That's farmland, which is primarily wheat and sheep. We obviously, as soon as it gets wet or the rain comes in the winter time, we actually have difficulty putting heavy equipment onto that land. So the area to the south, which is a little higher, more exposed, gives us all weather access. So we're able to continue our program throughout the year. And as you can see, historically, there's some quite high grade hits associated with that end production associated around that area. We'll continue to explore those, particularly as the winter sets in. Exploration is not something that you can just walk onto people's property and do. We have exploration leases, so we're actually a leaseholder. The farmers and the landowners generally own that land. In order for us to go and explore on their property, we need access agreements and we need to make sure that we leave an ultralight footprint on someone else's land. In order to do that, we've got 3 full-time staff that work, which we refer to as our community team, which go and speak to all the land holders and the community generally and gain the access agreements and explain exactly what we're doing so that we can go on and access various farms where and when we need to. As you can see from the centre picture, that's just an air core rig operating in wheat stubble in that particular picture. We leave a very light footprint. We try not to make any mess. We're very, very conscious of water management and everything else. So the plan is that after we're finished, you can't see where we've been. The big advantage that we have also is that being effectively an associate company, courtesy of our ownership of the Stawell Gold Mines, we've got the advantage of having that infrastructure available to us and at our disposal. So the Stawell Mine's been operating and working for a long time. As I said, it was recently recommissioned back in 2018 and is in full swing and full production as we currently speak. The infrastructure that the mine provides us gives us the ability, should we or when we are successful at finding another multi-million ounce deposit in that corridor, of actually just doing all of the various leasing and government permitting that's required, but we don't have to build a plant, we don't have to do any of that sort of thing. We can treat that ore back through the Stawell Gold Mine. Obviously there'll be a commercial arrangement associated with that, but enables us to bring North Stawell into production far quicker than most other junior miners in the area and in most junior miners generally. We just move on to the basically the second final slide. My head of geology, Mr. Bill Reid, likes to call this particular corridor, or refers to it as Victoria's Secret. Little play on words for him anyway. The area though is highly underexplored, yet it's in the shadow of a major mine, the headframe of a major mine. The historic hurdle to the exploration has been that Murray Basin cover. So people just couldn't see through that cover, and any holes that would have been drilled would have been just wildcat holes, more based on a hunch rather than modern science. That Stawell type mineralisation appears to respond very well to geophysics and has enabled us to peer through that cover, and the cover is relatively shallow, to look for those multi-million ounce gold deposits. We have and are continuing to do a lot of work on the interpretation, and we've got a very strong drilling campaign in place at the moment. As a matter of fact, we've got probably more than 1,000 samples currently in the labs waiting for results. So I'm hoping that Victoria's Secret won't stay a secret for much longer. Thank you very much for listening, and back to you, Matt. Thank you.